Welcome back. I really don't want to fly much this summer because I knew it's going to be bad, really bad.
Yesterday, 6 hours here. Nobody answered, nothing.
They lost 9 of our bags that actually they went to Amsterdam without us.
They put 2 ordinary people into extraordinary circumstances, and we were not prepared for that.
There were seemingly endless lines of people in front of Dublin Airport on Sunday as hundreds queued to enter.
We were waiting for 4 hours in line, and then we missed our flight because of it.
Problems with the baggage system at Terminal 2 over the weekend left hundreds waiting for 3 hours to collect their luggage. Issues with a lack of staff persist.
So let me share with you my experience of delay. I actually only flew once in the month of June from Los Angeles to Las Vegas. And guess what? I had a 5 hours delay on a 1 hour sector from LA to Las Vegas. It was literally faster to drive to Vegas than fly. The plane was mechanical at the gates. So they don't have another spare plane, and they keep telling you it's going to delay it for 1 hour, then 2 hours, then 3 hours, then finally they said 5 hours. They're going to wait for another plane to arrive from Mexico, then take us to Las Vegas. My friend visiting me actually had a worse experience. He had a very complex itinerary. He flew from Fort Lauderdale to Chicago to Los Angeles because he wanted to fly on the United 787-10. And then from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, he wanted to fly on JSX to experience different things. So every sector his flights were delayed. From Fort Lauderdale, the plane pushed back on time, but then there were ATC delay on the runway. He was number 11 on departure. By the time he arrived Chicago, he has to run to his next plane because he arrived literally 5 minutes before the next departure time. When he arrived at the gate, there was a long queue. The boarding hasn't really started because the airplane 787-10 was just arrived from Brussels and is still doing baggage loading and servicing the plane. He arrived 40 minutes late at Los Angeles. Guess what? The JSX flight was the last flight of the day. It hasn't took off from Las Vegas to LA to pick him up. So there was a roll-on delay for 3 more hours, and he finally arrived at Las Vegas at midnight. So I definitely don't recommend that kind of itinerary. Now, I've done lots of research, and I want to share with you these statistics and data. Take a look at these airports and airlines. They have the most cancellation and delays. So think twice before you fly through one of these airports or travel on one of these carriers. Let's take a look at Europe first, which has the worst hits of delay out of all the continents. Amsterdam topped off the list with 14,200 flight cancellation. It is really ridiculous. The situation is so bad that when people have a 7 a.m. flight, they have to go to the airport at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., line up outside for 3 miles, going around in circle to get into the building to go through the security check in order to meet their flights. And guess what? A lot of people couldn't meet the flights because the long queue was too long and they get stuck and then they missed their flights and things became worse. So Schiphol Airport Management had finally set up a measure to cap at 70,000 passengers per day to pass through Schiphol, which means there will be lots of flights being cancelled and to push the airfares to go high when we have such high demand.
It varies also on which day of the week passengers traveling through Europe. So sometimes you have a good experience in Paris or in London and the next day is different. On Friday, there in Copenhagen was about 2 hours waiting time for normal economy class passengers. On Saturday, it was only 10 minutes.
Here's a couple airlines you need to watch out. One of them is Scandinavian Airline, SAS, which actually filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy last week in the US. And also, the pilots are going through the second week of strike. Only 51% of the flights of SAS has made it. 49% of flights are canceled right now. That really gives no confidence for travelers flying SAS because you just don't know whether your flights will take off. The other airline I would recommend you to think twice is Eurowings. Eurowings has about 7.8% of all their scheduled flights being canceled, and lots and lots of flights are delayed through hubs like Dusseldorf or Hamburg because long security queues and then roll-on delays everywhere. Let's say you're lucky, you made it through the airport security line and you made it on your flight, departed on time. But having said that, there might be still risk of flights when they arrive. There's no gates, no baggage handler to meet at the airplane, and also your bags will come out late, or the worst case, you miss your bags. So Icelandair has came out with a very interesting and creative solution. They send their own baggage handler on Icelandair flights. When they arrive in Amsterdam, they help out to load the baggage to speed up. Let's move on to take a look at the stats in the US. On average, 1 out of 5 flights is delayed. And also, about 20,000 flights in the last 30 days has been canceled. The airport with most delay and disruption in North America is actually Toronto Pearson Airport in Canada. About 46% of Air Canada flights has been delayed. So I asked some experts about when they think the situation will get better and how to get better.
The situation remains challenging in Europe throughout the summer, and we cannot expect further improvement, as still there's lack of employees and will not hire so many people additional soon. Some airports try to hire people from outside Europe or from other nations, but it's also quite a bit difficult to do this. Improvement can be expected after the high season, so there will be maybe in Q3 or Q4 as kind of stabilization. That means there's also less holiday traffic, but it also means the ticket prices will go up later this autumn in Europe by 25% is the main expectation. What is a big lack here in Europe is digitalization at airports. So there must be more digitalization needed for real-time information to passengers. So there's a lot of improvement necessary, but at the moment all these airports are very busy with themselves.
So here, I want to help you by giving you some of my tips how to travel better or how to equip better to handle a flight delay or disruption. So the first tip is to try to travel on non-stop flights without connecting flights. As simple as that. Don't try to have a complex travel itinerary involving changing flights at the airport unless you have to. Right now, there are so many domestic and regional flights being canceled due to airport implementing caps, controlling of the flows, and also the shortage of staff. So don't risk it. If you have to travel, I would recommend morning flights. Typically, the early morning flights, the flights are arrived overnight and they're grounded at the airport ready for the turn in the morning departure. And now be very careful if you book on late afternoon and evening flights because these flights suffer the roll-on delay from the morning. I also hate to tell you not to fly, but if you are going short distances, consider other modes of transport by car or by train because simply at a security checkpoint, the queue might be so long that you would arrive sooner by other mode of transport. So the second tip is to download an airline app you're traveling because these days airlines tend to push out notification faster on the app than you monitor airport screen or you queue up at the airport service desk when you have a flight delay or cancellation. In my case, when I fly on United, I receive the latest notification and then they also explain and they said, oh, the plane is now out of service due to mechanical fault. And later they said, we are waiting for a new plane to arrive from Mexico. And then so we have a bit of certainty and we have a bit of information knowing what's happening. The third point is monitor airport website to see if any airport publish the security checkpoint time. So you don't have to go too early or go too late. In US, TSA actually published through a My TSA app the average security checkpoint time throughout the US. But in Europe, it's less digitized. It's really up to the airport operator to share these. But look out Twitter, look out news, look out flight tracking website to see if your inbound flight is delayed. The next tip I want to share is checking online before you go to the airport. Check in as early as possible. Now let's talk about your baggage. Try to pack light. The buzzword is carry on only. Try not to check the bag because the chance losing your bags are high and there will be headaches after you arrive. There's already tens and thousands of bags at the airport. It's really hard to retrieve and may take a long time to wait for delivery. If you must check your bag, I recommend take out some of the essential items like toothbrush, like a spare set of clothes. And in case your bags don't arrive, you have some minimum things to survive on. And also, take a picture of your checked baggage. Some people say even the Apple AirTags may help you to locate. So document your bags before check-in. Now, perhaps this is the most important travel tip, just to be patient. Common sense prevail. You gotta manage your travel expectation right. I also recommend to have travel insurance and also know your rights about compensation. The Montreal Treaty is the oldest convention to protect passengers' travel rights. In case your bags are lost, you could be entitled to €1,400 compensation. Now, in the US, if you have an oversold flights, you get bumped off from the oversold flights, you should be at least entitled to 200% of the airfare you have paid. And these days, airlines like passenger to know in advance their flight's been oversold and try to get people to bid up for compensation and to free up some seats. In Delta Airlines case recently, they have offered people $5,000 to $10,000 to free up a flight. It's incredible. Now in Europe, EU Regulation 261 protects travelers' right for flights departing from EU and also for EU carrier operating outside of EU. Under EC 261, you may be eligible for compensation up to €600 if your flight is delayed for more than 3 hours. But you have to prove that, and you have to submit claims. Thanks for watching today, and I hope you found some of the data useful on the airport and airline with high delays and cancellation, and also some of the essential travel tips help you to manage travel better. And I hope things are getting better and with less disruption. I'll be back in the air and share more experience with you soon.